Hold up. If you wanna go and take a ride with me, better hit me, baby, one more time.
More variety than you can imagine. Relax Radio.
The Chat Trap.
A very good morning to you and welcome back to the show. How is everybody doing? It is a beautiful day out there. And listen, I got so many interesting things that I do want to share with you that I want to let you know. So go ahead and get on board the show. Call me up. Let me know what's going on because I definitely want to know what you are thinking. I want to know what's going on in your head. How do you think your day is going so far? Do you have something that you want to share with me? Well, all you got to do is call me up on the number that's on the screen, and that's 07852 473 473. It's literally on the screen right now. You could WhatsApp us or call us, or if it's easier for you, you could head on over to our social media platforms, that is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch as well. And you can drop us an inbox message or a direct message or whatever that's easier for you, because we are here for you 24/7 365, and we definitely want to know what you're thinking and what you're doing. And we are super excited to have you on board the show. And I just want to say thank you so much to every single one of you that have been tuning in so far. Now, I am Jamie, and I'm going to be with you for a couple minutes more, actually, talking to you about a lot of interesting things. And I definitely want to know what you're thinking. Like I always say, be a part of the show, because what's most important to me is absolutely you, okay? I want to know if you agree with me. Even if you don't agree with me, that's okay as well. Go ahead and let me know by leaving a comment down below, or make sure that you hit that thumbs up button so that I know you are liking what we're talking about. Now, with that being said, I have some very, very interesting conversation lined up for you for the next couple minutes, actually. And that is the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because, first of all, I'm going to be very honest with you, okay? For me, one of the most scariest things in life, or one of the most scariest things that I've been through personally, is like job interviews, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. I know that I've spoken about this before, and I'm a very like outgoing person. I can talk to anybody, but I don't know what it is about like job interviews, but they scare me so much, right? So I feel like within the process or through the process of getting into like a job or whatnot, I've been through a lot of job interviews. And what I wanted to do, I figured that there could be so many others out there who need help with, what to say, what not to say at a job interview. Even it doesn't matter how old you are. This information is something that you absolutely need to know. It's just basic etiquette that I feel like everybody should know about, which is why I decided to talk to you about it today. So we are going to be talking about what you should do and what you should not do in order to not mess up your job interview. With that being said, let me know your personal experiences, okay? I want to know if, what's the worst job interview that you've ever had? Have you had a very bad job interview situation that you want to share with everybody? Because I've definitely had a bunch of those in my life, and I want to know your personal experiences. We do have a lot of people listening in. We have a couple of people listening in on our website. We have a couple of people listening in on our app, and also people listening in on our social media. So go ahead and share your job interview horror stories, or if you have something that you feel like could help people listening in with regards to acing their job interviews, go ahead and share them as well, because I'm going to be giving you my 2 cents. Of course, these are just, again, my opinions. I could be terribly wrong for all we know, but I just want to share these with you so that I hopefully could help you out when it comes to you facing your next job interview. Okay, first things first. Okay, if you do have a job interview, if you've been to a job interview, I think the first thing that comes to my mind when somebody says job interview is nervous. Right, I told you before how I am such an outgoing person, but job interviews scare the living daylights out of me. I hate walking into a room and seeing people all dressed up, just waiting for me to mess up, and it can be so scary. Honestly, it can be one of the scariest things ever. So one thing that I want to do within the next couple of minutes, like I told you, is to talk to you about different areas of job interviews. I'm going to talk to you about how to prepare for an interview, what you should say, what you should do in an interview, and what you should not do in an interview. And the first part of it is how to prepare for an interview, how to prepare for a job interview. Okay, so I think the first thing that you need to do that I've found extremely helpful is to kind of conduct a background research. Okay, the first thing you should do is to research about the organization. I've told you this before, but one thing that I've come to realize, I'm just 21 years old, okay? But within the couple years that I've lived here on earth, within the 21 years that I've lived here on earth, I've learned a bunch of things. And one of the most important thing is that knowledge is irreplaceable. Like, you cannot replace anything with the value of knowledge. Okay, it's always so good to be informed, it's always good to have knowledge, and I think that's what's most important, especially when you're going to a job. Have a bunch of knowledge, gather information, gather knowledge when it comes to what kind of company this is, what kind of products, what kind of services, or whatever it is. Kind of formulate a background research about this organization, or whatever it is that you are applying for. Okay, it's going to be so beneficial to you. It's going to be good when people ask you questions and they know what you're talking about, instead of being like, why am I here? It's better to obviously know what you're talking about. And that's why the first thing that you need to do if you're preparing for a job interview is to conduct like a background research. Okay, now the next thing I want you to compare, okay, for how do I say this? I feel like a lot of people kind of go for job interviews that don't necessarily match with your personal qualifications or skills, and then that you let you down. For example, say you are a tech person and you go for like a business job and you have your hopes high up, and then you don't get this job, and that kind of lets you down immensely, right? And then that's just going to hurt your ego, that's going to hurt your self-confidence. But in the first place, you should have realized that this job isn't for me. So one thing that I want you to do is to also compare your qualifications, to compare your skills with the job requirement. Before they choose you, you choose the company, you choose the organization, and see, oh, is this going to be okay for me? Is this organization, is this line of work what I actually want to be doing? So ask yourself that question, compare your qualifications and skills with the job requirement to see if you'll actually be happy doing this job and if you'll be any good at doing this job. Obviously, the other thing that I want to remind you is to practice interview etiquette. This is going to help you make a good impression on the interviewer. Greet everyone at the organization with body language. Firm handshakes are very important as well. Little things like this. I know it sounds very trivial. I know it sounds very cliche, but these can go a long way. Okay, so interview etiquette, body language is so important. Dress to impress, of course. Decide, prepare responses to common questions. These are little things that you can do to ace your job interview. And I definitely want you to do amazing, okay? I definitely want you to be amazing at whatever that you do, which is why I thought I'll share with you a couple things that you should be doing and you should be saying at job interviews so that you don't mess up when you go for that dream job interview of yours. With that being said, we've been talking for a couple minutes actually, so we're going to be heading off into a break. When I come back though, I do have a lot more that I want to share with you, so make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're writing? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts mainly because they're nice and bright. So they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. Yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in, like, calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up in your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
You come and listen on
Don't be afraid to catch feels.
Relax Radio.
The Chat Trap.
Good morning out to you. This is, of course, a chat trap, and we want you to be a part of the show. We've been having such amazing conversations so far. We've been talking about a lot of different things, and I want to know what you are thinking. I want to know your thoughts, your perspectives, your opinions. So go ahead and share it with me by calling me on 07852 473 473 or by leaving a comment down below. Now, we do have a lot of interesting things to talk about, like I told you, and I always, what I say is, the reason we're having all of this conversation is because we want you to be aware, is because we want you to be both informed and inspired. So go ahead, get on board the show. I am Jaimmy, and I'm going to be with you for a couple minutes more, talking to you about a lot of interesting things that you absolutely need to know. Now, going back to what we were talking about, it's about how you cannot mess up an interview. I know interviews can be really scary, especially job interviews, especially if it's like a dream job and you absolutely want to do your best. It's important to do your best at an interview, and it can be really, really scary. I'm not gonna lie to you. It doesn't matter how many interviews you've been to, it can be very scary. It can be very nerve-wracking to go for an interview, to talk to a bunch of people that you've never met before. Can be really scary, which is why I told you earlier on to prepare ahead of the interview. I told you a few things that you need to do to prepare before the interview actually begins. But let's talk about what you should do at the interview. Now, you're physically there, okay? You're in front of like a panel of people that are probably going to decide if you deserve the job or not. And I think the most important thing that you need to do in that moment is to listen properly. Again, this is from my personal experience. I feel like, especially when you are nervous, you have this tendency, at least I have this tendency to kind of zone out. Like, there's so much going on in my head that I barely listen to what they are saying. And in a minute, I'm just like, huh? What were we talking about? So make sure that that doesn't happen, okay? That's really bad. That shouldn't happen in an interview. So if you go for a job interview, keep your fears aside and listen properly. Do not zone out. Listening is such an underrated skill. I feel like listening in itself is a skill, and everybody should learn to focus and learn to kind of develop that skill. Okay, so during an interview, whenever the interviewer is speaking, they're providing you with information, and if you don't listen carefully, you're going to miss out on valuable information. So make sure that you listen all the time. Answer the questions thoughtfully. That's another thing, right? When you're really nervous and when you're really when you're scared about what's going to go on, you barely think, like, you say things without actually thinking about it. But make a conscious effort to actually think about what you're saying. Avoid answering a question as soon as it is asked. Okay, as soon as they say, "Oh, where do you see yourself in 10 years?" and you blurb out an answer, and instead of doing that, take a few minutes. Pace yourself, compose the answer in your head, and then answer it. Okay, include examples, be very casual about it. Okay, so just make sure that you answer the questions thoughtfully. Use proper language. Oh, that's so important. Ensure that you use a very professional language during your interview. It doesn't matter what they're saying. Okay, I've been in interviews where the interviewees, if that's a word, or the people interviewing have been super unprofessional and used inappropriate language, but that doesn't give you the okay, or that doesn't give you the green light to do the same thing. So it doesn't matter how they address you. Make sure that you use very professional language. Avoid slang words. Obviously, that goes without saying. Especially when you're nervous, like I said before, you have a tendency to say things without actually meaning it. So make sure that you think something through before you actually let it spill. Okay, ask questions. Say you didn't hear something, that's okay. Go ahead and ask something. It's always better to ask than answer blindly. So ask a question, be honest. Oh my goodness, for me, at least, okay, again, this is my opinion, but at an interview, there is absolutely nothing worse than somebody who lies about their qualifications and their skills. So be honest at an interview. That is so important. Listen well. Don't zone out like me. I told you how I have a tendency to kind of zone out when I'm especially nervous. Make sure that that doesn't happen. Listen properly. Be honest. And yeah, make sure that okay, see, that's the other thing, right? Even if you're at an interview and you have like a connection with the interviewer, make sure that you don't like be familiar. Don't use unprofessional language. The interview is professional discussion regarding business. It's not the time to make a new friend. So don't try to act familiar. Don't try to become too friendly with the people, the panel, or the person that's interviewing. Don't talk too much. Don't act too desperate. Oh my goodness. When you be too desperate, that's just like, no. They have no option. So don't act too desperate. Don't interrupt. And yeah, make sure that you are on time. These are a few things that you can do to ace your interview. When we come back, I'm going to be heading off to a little break. When we come back, though, we do have a lot more interesting things to talk about. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why